Welcome everyone to another coffee break here on my channel Firm Learning. My name is Heinrich, I'm a former McKinsey consultant, and on my channel I talk about how to become successful in the first years of your career. And today let's look into what Steve Jobs had to say about consulting. So of course, if Steve says something, we all better listen. Steve surely is a great and intelligent man. And I found, I think, one of the less known videos of Steve Jobs where he commented on his perspective of consulting. The video is from a speech he gave at MIT where he essentially shared 2 points on consulting. So let's look at them. I think part of what he says is correct, but I do also think that his view is at least partially flawed. So let's get into it.
How many of you are from manufacturing companies? Oh, excellent. Where are the rest of you from? Oh, how many from consulting? Oh, that's bad. You should do something. No, seriously, I don't think there's anything inherently evil in consulting. I think that without owning something over an extended period of time, like a few years, where one has a chance to take responsibility for one's recommendations, where one has to see one's recommendations through all action stages and accumulate scar tissue for the mistakes and pick oneself up off the ground and dust oneself off, one learns a fraction of what one can. You're coming in and making recommendations and not owning the results, not owning the implementation, I think is a fraction of the value and a fraction of the opportunity to learn and get better.
So here Steve Jobs is essentially saying that consultants do not own the products of their work and do not follow through with it in the execution. And while I think it's fair to say that consultants of course own the concepts and strategies that they might develop, especially MBB consulting, so McKinsey, BCG, Bain, surely it's correct that at least in most cases you do not witness the execution of these concepts and surely also not responsible for them. So the one side of the story is that he is correct, and I did also witness, sometimes even up to a point where I thought that this was a little bit arrogant, that there was often a little bit of the notion that actually developing the concepts and the strategies, this is what the challenging part is. And then the execution that wouldn't be that tough, that difficult. And this is also the context in which I released a video a couple of weeks ago about the Boston Consulting Group and GameStop legal dispute, where Boston Consulting Group is suing GameStop for about $30 million in consulting fees. So if you haven't seen that, I will link it somewhere above here. But this video, this whole topic, was also very much linked to the fact the Boston Consulting Group actually was not responsible, at least from their perspective, for the actual implementation of the measures that they recommended, and there seem to be lots of disputes surrounding that. So this criticism that consultants do not really own their ideas from end to end, from the very start where you conceptualize them until they are financially effective, this is of course a common criticism. Though here I often wonder whether that's really a fair point to make, because let's look at other roles in corporate. Let's look at salespeople. Do they own everything of the value chain of what happens in their company? No, they are just salespeople. They're selling products. And you could argue this is also only a very limited part of what happens in a company. What about accountants, financial accountants, managerial accountants, people working in a controlling team? Do they really own the company processes from end to end? Well, I'd argue they're very efficient and capable in a certain area. What if you are a software engineer? So here you certainly build something and are responsible for the final product of your work. But here also, are you really owning it end to end? Here someone else will usually conceptualize and define the things that then you are supposed to build. So you will get very detailed descriptions, usually from the product team, telling you what to do, and then you do just that. Is this really end-to-end ownership? Now you could continue talking about engineers working in R&D or people working in production. I'd say that in almost every role in a corporate environment, you are only responsible for a certain part of the whole, but not everything. And in this same way, the strategy consultants are responsible for developing the strategy concepts, and of course many other things depending on the types of projects they're working on, and which is not that different from many of these other roles as well.
And so what you do get a broad cut at companies, but it's very thin. It's like a picture of a, I could use, I'm a vegetarian so I won't use steak, but it's like a picture of a banana. You might get a very accurate picture, but it's only two-dimensional. And without the experience of actually doing it, you never get three-dimensional. So you might have a lot of pictures on your walls. You can show it off to your friends. You can say, look, I've worked in bananas, I've worked in peaches, I've worked in grapes, but you never really taste it. And I think that's what I think.
So this point builds on the notion that consultants don't really understand what they're talking about, that at best they have a very superficial knowledge of the things that they express their opinions on. And here again, in favor of Steve Jobs, of course as a consultant you will rarely have the knowledge that someone has who's really working in an operational way on a certain topic for years and years and years. Of course such a person will likely be more knowledgeable, at least on some parts of the things, than you as a consultant. And in addition to that, I do think it's true, also from my personal experience, that sometimes there's the problem that as a consultant you need to be perceived as competent. You need to do things to some extent fake this competency, even though you're still learning, you're still in the process of acquiring all the knowledge that you need to acquire. There was a Harvard Business Review article a couple of years ago that called this the learning credibility tension. That's a tension that many people in professional services face, so it's not only specific to consulting, but a very relevant, interesting topic indeed. I created a video about that a couple of months ago. I will also link it above here with some very interesting insights on that. Check it out if this topic interests you. But that being said, I still think that this notion that consultants don't really know what they're talking about in the end is still very much flawed as well. From my perspective, it's actually one of the biggest advantages of having worked several years in consulting that after this time you will be able to have a meaningful conversation with any senior leader of most companies independent from the industry or from the function that the leader is working in, just based on your insights and based on your contextual understanding of what the key topics are that matter to these type of people, and of course also what they mean on an executional operational level, because in the end of the day these are things that you will at least have some exposure on in your work as a consultant as well. On top of that, the big variety of different topics you will work on, at least in MBB consulting, really enables you to, if then you need to go deep in a certain part of your career also after consulting, to give you the confidence that you can understand also complex things in a short amount of time and give you the ability to really amass lots of knowledge in short time to get this done and to make yourself knowledgeable whenever this is then needed. So in the end of the day, to me this comes back to the old debate whether being a generalist is better or whether being a specialist is better. And in my humble opinion, there are very good arguments to be made that especially in the beginning of your career, it makes a lot of sense to become a generalist first. You will still have plenty of opportunities later down in your career to amass niche knowledge, to amass knowledge in a very specific domain, to become this very T-shaped profile who has on the one hand side a very broad general understanding of things and then also is able to go deep and has domain expertise in some specific areas. That often makes a lot of sense, because if you specialize yourself too early on in your career, but I understand that the rewards from that can be significant as well, then often it is difficult. Then after years and years and years in this specific role, you then want to do things which are very, very different from that. But now I'm very interested to hear your opinion as well. Do you actually agree with what Steve Jobs said or not? Just leave a comment below in the comment section. Very happy to have a conversation with you. And as always, if you took any value from this video at all, destroy the like button for the YouTube algorithm and also subscribe to stay up to date. My name is Heinrich. Big thanks to all the members of your channel for your support. I release videos every single Saturday. See you again next week. Until then, all the best to you and bye bye.